Well, I know, Mr. Prime Minister, the audience is interested in a number of issues, but let's start with one that everybody cares about around the world, and that is climate change. You have set one of the most ambitious goals for generating renewable energy, and India is now providing wind and solar at some of the cheapest electricity rates in all of Asia. How did you accomplish that? And is India on the track to really meet the ambitious targets that you set?
I am very grateful to you. You have touched on a subject which is very important for the entire world. And I know that you yourself are very committed to this subject. You have a lot of conviction about what needs to be done. It is true that the lifestyle in India, it is a very great example for the world. We are people that follow some principles in this area. We believe that the earth is our mother, and we need to, we do not have the right to exploit our earth. We only have the right to use it for our needs. So India has this very fundamental principle. We can understand needs, but we do not want to cater to people's greed. This is something that is a very fundamental principle of ours, and I believe that the challenge of global warming in the world today, there are governments, etc., that are working on it, but to really be able to find a solution, it is only the behavior of citizens that can make an impact, and therefore human behavior needs to be in harmony with nature. We need to go forward keeping the environment in mind. And India has also had initially set a target of 175 gigawatts for the production of renewable energy. I am today that we are well ahead of timelines to deadlines to achieve this target. We have already achieved 120 gigawatts. And yesterday when I was speaking at the United Nations, and I set a new target for myself, 450 gigawatts. And in the very near future, we want to increase our renewable energy production to 450 gigawatts. In order to achieve this, we have taken some policy initiatives. And secondly, we have also given incentives. Thirdly, it is our effort that all the necessary opportunities, we need to give this emphasis. One challenge that is before us today is that of nuclear energy, because since we are not a member of the nuclear suppliers group, we do not really have the ability to get fuel for producing nuclear energy. If we were to get that opportunity, we could perhaps be a model in this area for the world. But on the with respect to climate, there is another related topic to which we have not really focused our attention on it, and that subject is water. In India, we have recently taken an initiative called Jal Jeevan Mission for water. Basically, it focuses on rainwater harvesting, reuse, recycling of water. We are starting a very big campaign across the country for this, and we also want to make sure that we reinvigorate our rivers, and we are trying to focus on this as well. We have also banned the use of single-use plastic, and we are starting a very big movement to stop the use of single-use plastic. And on the 2nd of October, on the occasion of the birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, we are going to announce this very large campaign to end the use of single-use plastic. So with respect to climate, with respect to the environment, we want to adopt a holistic approach and move forward together.
You talked about plastic, water, renewables. Do you have any expectations of reducing the amount of coal that is burnt in India?
You're absolutely right that the third largest coal reserve is in India. A poor country like India, we cannot ignore it, but there is a solution to it. Number one is that we will have to change the ways of mining and carry out underground mining so that they don't do any damage to the environment. The other solution is coal gasification. By doing coal gasification, we can make use of clean energy, and we are calling out to other countries to bring out their technology so we can use coal gasification, whether it can be used in mobility or in energy. We want to use gasified coal. So the assets that India has, we cannot deny them. At the same time, we want to see how we can use these assets in an environment-friendly way. That is what we're focusing on.
Let's change the subject and talk about the economy. India's economic growth is one of the great success stories of the century. Last month you said that India could have a $5 trillion economy in 5 years. How do you plan to reach that target, and will it require additional economic reforms or steps to boost foreign investments?
I agree with you that today no one can do any isolated activity in the world today. We are in an era where we are interdependent. We have to adopt global benchmarks. So the first task for me, all my laws, my regulations, my governance efficiency, we need to be able to, first of all, adapt global benchmarks, and so that we will be able to increase the confidence of investors. So we are doing the necessary reforms in our laws and taking some new initiatives as well. Secondly, safety and security of investors. Investors must get the return they want on their investments. And there are two things in India that distinguish us from the rest of the world. One is democracy, and the second is our judicial system, which is also in English. So any investor, if there is a dispute of any kind, these two factors create confidence for the investors. There is a democratic system, there is a very good judicial system, and there is the use of the English language, so there are no problems with respect to understanding and interpretation, and there is a uniform interpretation of laws, etc. So language plays a very important role. So this situation is pretty favorable in India. Secondly, we are also trying to make our infrastructure ready for next generation infrastructure. We want to create new airports. We want to increase the speed of railway lines. We want to have electrification. We want better roads. And we want to give every family a home. So infrastructure is a priority sector for us. The second area is value addition. In the agricultural sector, we want to go towards food processing in a big way. And if India makes efforts, we can become a food basket. We also want to promote organic farming. And for this reason, the very big market that exists in the world for holistic healthcare, we can contribute to it. There are a lot of good health facilities in India. Only recently, we have started the biggest health insurance scheme in India, America, Canada, and Mexico. If you look at the total population of these three countries, we provide health insurance to more people than that under the Ayushman Bharat scheme. So we need to build 2,000 more hospitals so that this is an assured income for these hospitals, because the government is going to pay them because of the health insurance scheme. And so whether it is the quality of life, we are going towards a digital India. And
optical fiber network और डिजिटल इंडिया की मेरी मूवमेंट ये भी
We are looking at an optical fiber network for 600,000 villages, and we are actually promoting startups a lot. We are number 3 at a startup ecosystem, but we want to improve our environment. So I think even for the youth, there is a lot of possibilities in India. In fact, we've taken so many initiatives, and the result of these initiatives is that our economy will grow at a fast pace. And in the 5 years, we have noticed that, from 2 trillion to we made it to a 3 trillion economy, and I'm very sure that we will be able to achieve the $5 trillion target.
In spite of all of the new technology that keeps getting introduced around the world, the real key to economic growth is still the workforce. And you have a very young workforce. Half the population is under the age of 25. And that presents real challenges in terms of skill sets and job education. Especially as the economy around the world rewards more education and high-skilled workers, how is your administration going to tackle education changes in technology, and how can the private sector really help you get it done?
I think you have actually touched upon a very important subject. Our biggest dividend is the young talent. It's a big advantage for India. We are, as I mentioned, putting a lot of emphasis on innovation. From the primary school level, there is a new network that we have established called the Atal Tinkerer Lab. We want to promote innovation. We are also trying to set up a network of incubation centers so that, the world is never going to stop. The world will keep coming with new inventions and new technologies. I think the kind of inventions that have happened in the last 300 years, more than that, inventions have happened in the last 60 years. So I think in the future we can expect an even faster pace of inventions and innovations. So I think we need to prepare a groundwork for this kind of a future, and we need to develop human resources for that. The second thing is that very slowly, I think what is becoming more important, not a college degree, but the skill that you have. It depends on what kind of ability you have. I think that will become more important, and for that, in India, we have put a lot of focus on skill development at different work levels. There is a certain kind of global workforce there which is required. For example, India has this asset of youth people. If these youth can be useful to the world, we would like to make sure like recently we have an understanding with Japan. In Japan, there is a need for a certain skill set, a certain type of human resources. We are preparing these human resources. We send them for training into Japan. We have institutions which are being run by the Japanese with Japanese help. So this is the kind of things we are doing. So we feel in the world, the kind of human resources that are required, we are trying to make that kind of a skill development program in India. Third, we all know that the entire world is running towards automation. But I feel that even though the world may change, there always will be a possibility of new job creation. I think it is important to visualize new job creation now and make sure that our syllabus is in line with that requirement. The big other problem, which in fact just yesterday I talked about this at the UN, and I think it might be of interest to you, and I would like Bloomberg to partner with us in this particular subject. We've noticed that because of climate change recently, every time we hear about these disasters due to climate change, I think in that kind of a situation, we need to focus on disaster-resilient infrastructure. One of the surveys mentions that when there is a large disaster, some 60 to 70% established infrastructure gets damaged or terribly damaged, or finished or terribly damaged. So we have to have a disaster-resilient infrastructure, which means that we have to change the syllabus of students accordingly. The material should be different. New technologies need to be introduced. And the new kind of problems that can be expected due to the global warming, we need to have arrangements to handle that situation. I think that this is going to become a very big market. It's going to contribute to a very large economic activity. So we decided to institutionalize this. And just yesterday, I announced this in the UN. Just like we started the International Solar Alliance, similarly, we are going to start a holistic view for disaster-resilient infrastructure. We are going to institutionalizing. I think this is a kind of a challenge that we can put forth to the youth.
In a world where social media seems to talk about everything that's going wrong, and we know there are a lot of things going right. We've reduced global poverty by 50% in the last 3 decades. How do you and other leaders get a good message out when the press really says that's not what people want to hear? They want to hear sensationalism and failure and all the bad things, and we know that's not true. What should a leader do today? It's a different world.
You yourself are linked to the media world, and you yourself are asking me this question. The first point is, I can say to you in the context of India, I really don't want to talk about the rest of the world. In our country, there was an incident many years ago in Kandahar. One of our planes was hijacked, and there were very many hundred passengers on that aircraft. The terrorists had kept them captive. But at that time, electronic media was very new. There was a television, and the citizens, they really talked a lot about the sufferings of the victims, etc. That it actually increased the courage of the terrorists. They believe that there's so much pressure on the government. They're definitely going to give in to our demands. And I remember very well that the television media had a meeting at the time, and they decided to make a self-assessment of all the mistakes they had made and how they could actually correct them. And I thought that was a good initiative, but that sort of thing doesn't happen anymore. There's a lot of competition now. They want to give news out very quickly. They want sort of sensational news. So there's a sort of an era of competition. So I don't know whether this is really going to reform itself or not. Social media has given a very big strength for empowerment. Today, any person can put a message out there. So it is a very powerful instrument of democracy. But unfortunately, there is, in an organized way, negative propaganda is being done. It is good that every media today is trying to highlight fake news. They're spending 10-15 minutes a day highlighting fake news. So every day, the social media and regular media, if they continue to focus on fake news, I think there will be an improvement in the situation. And secondly, this fashion of forwarding messages, I think technology needs to find a solution that whereby there is some possibility of verifying news before we forward it. But I am myself very active on social media for many years, and I have had benefits as well from it. But I can see that if a small incident that takes place in a faraway village, I come to know from social media about it, and I can very quickly trigger action. I don't need to make a statement. I can start action. But for good governance, the information that we get from the local level, social media is extremely useful for that. And I believe that if governments are sensitive, if they have a motto of good governance, then for information, social media can be an excellent tool. And the same way, if we had a flood, for example, in our country, when I was in Gujarat, there was a river. There's a river there in Gujarat, and once in 5 years there is a flood. But once there was 5 floods in a single year, and the government machinery kind of was unable to cope. But I had the social media network, and I used to send messages out. We didn't really have the ability to send messages in many languages. So I used to use Roman characters to send messages in Gujarati. There was in a single year, we had 5 floods. There was some damage to property, but we did not lose a single person, and we did not lose a single animal. And therefore, this was through social media. So I think that for good governance, social media can be used in a very positive manner. So as a leader, if you say, believe that social media can be used as an excellent tool of good governance, and I am doing a lot in this area as well.
Prime Minister, our scheduler keeps flashing us a message saying we're out of time, but I wanted to thank you for generously giving us your time. American-Indian relations, I hope, will continue to improve. You've just been reelected. Use your time in office wisely. We need a strong India. And I wanted to thank you on behalf of the American people for all of the people of Indian extraction who've come here and changed our business and culture and technology. We have a great relationship and we want to make that better. So thank you very much.
I would also like to thank you. It was really wonderful to be right here with all of you. I request to all of you now, India is waiting for you, and India is the only destination for you. So I would like that through Bloomberg, please come to India, and I will be ready to welcome you to India. Thank you.